Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Lansing from a New Perspective. In this episode, we're going to talk specifically about Veterans Affairs and making sure and getting an understanding of what we're doing in the state of Michigan and frankly from a government perspective overall for our veterans and their families. Well, with me today I have two distinguished veterans with me. First is John McCandless and second is Doug Williams. And just give a little bit of background, I'm going to start with Doug. Doug is the Legislative Affairs Chairman for the Department of Michigan American Legion. He's the Legislative Director for the Marine Corps League and Department of Michigan and the Legislative Affairs Chairperson for the Commanders Group of Michigan. In this capacity, he represents approximately 274,000 Michigan veterans on legislative issues affecting all veterans at the state and federal level. He is serving as a lobbyist to ensure they receive the benefits they have earned through their service. Doug is a veterans advocate. He served in the United States Marine Corps from 1960 to 1964 on the West Coast and in the Far East. Upon being honorably discharged, he joined the Lansing Police Department, where he retired after 25 years as a sergeant in the Uniform Patrol Division. Doug has attended Michigan State University, Northwestern University, Supervisor School, Lansing Community College, and many other institutions too numerous to mention. And I tell you, he has also attended my committee meetings as in our the Appropriations Subcommittee for the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, and I was honored to have him testify before our committee just last week, I believe it was.
Yes, sir, it was.
And give an introduction into John McCandless. John is one of the founding members of the Michigan Armed Forces Hospitality Center, of which I'm a member as well. Great group of folks. He's a member of the board of directors and currently serving as vice president. John is a communications professional with over 30 years experience as a public relations executive with automotive manufacturers. He is also a retired Navy captain in the United States Naval Reserve, and because he's got the PR background, people should be paying attention to what he says as opposed to me. So also he's a graduate of the Michigan State University and has been a frequent lecturer at Michigan State as well as the University of Michigan, the University of Detroit Mercy, and the Naval War College. He retired from Toyota Motor Sales USA as National Field Operations Manager in 2010. We're blessed to have both of you gentlemen here with us today to talk about matters near and dear to our heart.
Nice to be here,
Happy
Pat.
to be here, Senator.
Hey, thank you very much. And I guess when we're starting off, I want to put a little backdrop to why taking care of our veterans and our active military personnel and their families is so important. I want to highlight we have currently about 1.4 million active service personnel in the military, and that's just the active military. That doesn't even get into the guards and reserves. And that means that we've currently got over 200,000 families just in the active military deployed overseas in either Afghanistan or in Iraq. And over the past 8 years, we've had over about 2.8 million servicemen that have gone through and served in Iraq or Afghanistan. That's a lot of people for us to make sure we're taking good care of them and their families back at the ranch. And I'm going to start things off with talking with you, Doug, and kind of highlight how do we take care of those, and what are the different ways that we take care of servicemen and their families and veterans from a state and from a federal government perspective.
Well, each of the veteran service organizations, and there are 11 in the state of Michigan, have within their ranks veteran service officers who have been trained in the VA, Veterans Administration process, on how to file and deliver appropriately the many claims forms to the Veterans Administration to help them receive money from the Veterans Administration.
Now, what kind of benefits do they process the claims for?
Well, there's claims for educational benefits, medical benefits, housing benefits. There's all kinds of different claims that go through our Veterans Service Office, and it's located in Detroit at the Regional Federal Building. And the officers who staff that facility have received numerous years of training. One of the problems that veterans have when they get out of the service is if they're not familiar with it and they try to file their own claim, they end up having a delay of even up to 2 and 3 years. So we ask them when they get out of the service to go to a Veterans Service Organization officer, have him file that paperwork for them, then there's less chance for error. And the process will be speeded up, and they will receive the money sooner. Okay. Right now, we've got 35,000 claims backlogged in Detroit, and nationwide, as I was telling John a moment ago, there's 1.6 million cases backlogged. That's because neither the regional office in Detroit nor the federal government has an ample manpower strength to handle the influx of claims based on what we've deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan that are returning home now.
So there's probably also a process dimension, making it more complex than it has to be.
Absolutely.
And which is intended to be safeguards, to make sure
Right.
that the people applying for them are really the people that need those services or are eligible for them. So
That's true.
I understand that. But we need to do more on both ends of the spectrum if we can. How do retired military, and when they come out of the military, how do they learn about these benefits, or even when they're active, how do they learn about what benefits they're eligible for?
Well, I think there's several ways that they can learn about them. Number one, when they are released from their military obligation, they should be told then to file the claims necessary through the Veterans Administration and how to go about doing it. The delivery of that information to them has been somewhat helter-skelter over the years. It hasn't been done very well, and we're trying to improve on that here in the state of Michigan by having a one-stop shop where the veteran can go call one time and get all of the information he needs. But that's going to be a very, very difficult difficult process for us, but we are working in that direction.
Yeah, I got a full appreciation for how difficult that would be at our last committee hearing, because Hugh Hess, who's a gentleman of distinguished reputation in Michigan for taking care of our veterans, he went through all the different agencies that you would go through, and you'd think it would just stop at like Department of Military and Veterans Affairs and Veterans Affairs Organization, but no, it's delivered via the Department of let's see here, where are some of the different areas here? Department of Defense delivers some of these directly. We've got cases where Department of Community Health provides eligible, Human Services.
Yep.
So every single agency has like a one or two sub-branches associated with servicing veterans specifically. And I regret to say that probably most of that is a facet of how legislation is passed to support those.
I think you're absolutely right, Senator.
It comes right back up into the Capitol. So you got my commitment to find ways. If we can streamline this, I'm a big business process guy. Let's find ways to streamline it, making it easier.
Well, that's why I use the term helter-skelter. It's so spread around, and it's so difficult to reach out and put your finger on any one thing. And every veteran has different needs. And so we're trying to appease all of those, and this is the way that we've done it over the years. And it's not working real well now because of the fact that we have so many. And those backlog cases need to be processed because a lot of those returning servicemen and women are coming home. They had families, and those families are suffering as a result of their inability to receive the compensation that's due them based on their disabilities.
Now, what would you say are kind of the top 3 areas of assistance that our vets are needing when they come back?
Well, I think the first and the primary most important is employment, jobs. Yeah. Once they're released from the military, we need to have them back into the workforce so they can begin to provide for the family. That does a couple of things. It provides for the community because they are paying taxes, and the community can benefit from the money that they spend that they receive from the Veterans Administration. Last year, and I'm sure that it will be recalculated this year, our regional office, our veteran service officers who worked out of that office, for $3.9 million in grants that the state gave us to operate this way, we returned $385 million to the state's budget. Actually, that money didn't pass through the hands of the state treasurer, so it wasn't really something that he could or she could put their hands on and say, this belongs to the state. It went directly from the Veterans Administration to the veteran, who then used it directly in his or her community.
Well, then they paid the treasurer.
And then they paid.
Once a year around April 15th time frame, right?
Yeah, but not initially.
Yeah, so, no.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to note how this system has functioned and worked over the years. The other thing that they, to go back to your original question, the other thing is the educational benefits. The Montgomery GI Bill now provides more than adequately for returning service people. They can apply to any college of their choice, and the first and second and third and fourth years they're receiving an enumeration of over $17,000. $1,000 for food and stipend for food and housing, and $1,000 for books. So they've improved. Those 2 areas right now, jobs and education, are I think what's critical. The other thing is the medical aspect of it, because they're coming home with so many different kinds of problems, like post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. Those those are the things that, the three things that I would say if I were going to highlight their primary needs, those would be at the top.
Oh, that's a good summary there. And we're working hard, especially on the jobs front, to make sure that folks have a job when they get back to the ranch. Sure. And which kind of, the listing of those services kind of is a good segue into the next topic of discussion. I want to talk to John about something that's been in the works for a while in kind of in a temporary fashion, or and that is a full-time military lounge out at Detroit Metro Airport, and it's called the Freedom Center, with the tagline, "Serving those who serve us." And one of the things we're going to try to help to do is actually provide, use this center as an information kiosk to help get the word out about those services and help facilitate them going forward. But the story of the Freedom Center itself has a very interesting tale to tell as far as how it all came together. And I was wondering, John, if you could provide us a little bit of background on how it came to
Sure.
be.
For the last 2 years at the holiday time, Delta airline volunteers put together a temporary military lounge. The first year was just an unused conference table in a long room with some cookies out. The second year, we used the former first-class lounge from Lufthansa Airlines, which was really nice because we had not only a full kitchen, we had a day room, and we had a quiet room. In 21 days of operations, we put over 2,400 military people through that lounge. Families from and active duty servicemen and women.
How would they use that? I mean, give people a background. Why is this even important?
Well,
why are we even?
One lady with 2 young children, and I wasn't volunteering that day that she came through. She had started her day, or the previous day, in Okinawa, commercial to Narita in Japan, to Honolulu, to LAX, in here, and then she had arriving about 6 a.m. in the morning on the night flight from Los Angeles. And now she had another 6-hour layover, and she had layovers on these places. Imagine how tired she was. So she found our military lounge, and our volunteers said, "What can we do for you? Is there a chair to sleep in?" We said, "We can do better than that." And we had the quiet room with pull-out futons. Also during that time, remember the blizzard they had Washington, D.C. and Norfolk? That shut down East Coast operations. We kept open 24/7 for 3 days because we had people trapped trying to get east. And one seaman just finished schools out at San Diego, was with us for 3 days. Well, he doesn't have the money to go get a hotel room or food or anything else. So we fed him and met him. So
Good.
Well, tell us how the Michigan Armed Forces Hospitality Center came together.
Well, after we really wanted to establish a military lounge, maybe a USO. So Ken Pratt, who's the Delta captain, and I had done a lot of investigation on this. And we put together our own 501c3 because the USO has a requirement that require really 3 years financials in the bank, and that's going to delay us. We need to get the lounge open. So we formed a 501c3 this summer and got a board together, and then we got a call from the airport saying, Senator Colbeck just called, and he's going to call you because he called the airport and wondered why there wasn't a USO. So Patrick met with us, and I think the second meeting is when you laid out the timeline for putting this together. So that must have been in late July.
Yeah.
And we had hoped to get the airport lease signed. The airport is giving us the space. It's only going to be 1,100 square feet, but it's a start for $1 a year. And Patrick, being a business guy, said, "We'll do this by September 1. We'll do this, and we'll open on Veterans Day."
You guys are
And
the ultimate project
nobody said
managers,
anything. I said, "I'm not going to say anything," but I'm thinking, no way can we possibly do this. I mean, we hadn't raised dime one, and we are going to have expenses because we have to hire a full-time volunteer coordinator, and we have to buy workman's comp insurance, and have to pay the $1 a year lease, and the electric bill and things like that. But the community has been very, very supportive. Wayne County Airport Authority has just been outstanding to work with.
Well, the whole board, everybody on that board. I mean, it seems like everybody on it is a project manager, and they're type A. Ken's been going off. He went off on a brief vacation. Before that, he was managing every milestone down to the detail and getting everybody collaborated. Then you picked up, and it was a seamless transition, managing all the project and getting us towards our goal of opening up on 11/11. And it's just been fantastic the way everybody's worked together. And then when you tie in what's happened in the volunteer community. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Howard Rundell and I were out at Selfridge soliciting volunteers. Within an hour and a half, we had 30 solid volunteers that wanted to contribute to go off and help
Yeah.
our vets.
Yeah.
And which gets me to one key point that I have is that one thing I'll say is there's a little bit of a shame the fact that the folks that led this from the beginning, the last 2 years, frankly, were retired servicemen. They were veterans. And the sad part is you guys are carrying the load for the rest of us, like myself, who never did serve. And I for one, the reason I was so passionate about getting engaged in this is that we should be doing more to help the vets and our families, because I always carry around with me my Declaration of Independence and my Constitution. Well, it's you guys that make it possible for us to live in this system of government protected and are structured by that Constitution. And I just want, for one, and a lot of the people that we've been encountering, want to just thank you guys for it. And this is an expression of gratitude for your service, and I hope it's received that way. The idea that we can provide some dedicated comfort and support for you through these up-tempo deployments that everybody's going through. I just feel so blessed that things came together in such a providential manner. I mean, the night before I had the first meeting with Wayne County Airport Authority to get this set up, we met with the executive director of Wayne County Airport Authority, and this was not scheduled. She just happened, as Turkey Mullen, happened to be at the meeting that I was at, and we discussed this, and she's an Army veteran herself, all supportive of it. Next thing we know is we meet with Myrna Mendez, and she has just rolled out the red carpet to get all the infrastructure necessary to set up this Freedom Center. So the people that we've been surrounded with through this whole process has just been remarkable.
Yeah, and the corporate contributions have been coming in. And I announced it on WJR Paul W. Smith's show, and within 2 minutes, I had a commitment which turned into $10,000, and we got another $20,000 commitment from Arvin Meritor Defense, which is part of the Arvin Meritor.
Yeah.
And we're getting individual contributions. All this graphic work was donated by a company called Marketing Associates in Detroit, which is led by a former Naval Academy grad, and it's really partly owned by Edsel Ford. And everybody, nobody's saying, well, you have to give us $100 for this or something like that. And but we have our website up and running. Individuals can go to mifreedomcenter.org and make a contribution through PayPal, or if they want to write us, or if there's we're going to put a corporate donation. We have suggesting 3 levels of corporate donations. There's a lot of in-kind donations. Home Depot is giving us a refrigerator and microwave and things like that. The Rent-A-Center is giving us furniture. But the corporate donation levels, red, white, and blue, right? And red, the Patriot, I think we're calling it, and one's the Warrior, and then the top contributors like Meritor Defense, we're making them a red level sponsor because they're providing $20,000 support to us, white $10,000, and blue $5,000. So.
And so it's just worth pointing out that money is going towards ways that we can dazzle and delight our servicemen and their families. This is a case where, first of all, we do have permanent staffing that we're looking at providing. We've got one permanent manager, and then we're going to have some part-time support as well on a couple people. We've got a lot of volunteers who would love to come in and actually provide the one-on-one care for the servicemen and women, but we get in a little bit of an issue with security, and we
have to badge each volunteer.
Right.
I was out yesterday to get a badge with they do the fingerprints electronically now. They don't get ink in your hands.
But we're going to find ways to get volunteers engaged in ways where you don't have to worry about security. And it's out in the back room where we can get. And just one example of that, we've got students that are going off and providing thank you cards for the servicemen that we're going to use to decorate the hallway coming in. Inside, we're going to have infrastructure. We're going to have a kiosk where we demonstrate what the veteran services are that are going to be offered. And we're going to try to get some beverages and some other other amenities in there as well. And for folks that are used to Detroit Metro Airport, it's right around gate A43.
Which is the rebooking gate.
Yeah.
In bad weather, people use that gate to reschedule their flight. So it's right there by the phone. Just on the way down to the Coney Island.
Great spot, because it's right in the middle of everything when you come through the main gateway, and we hope that it'll be a good good place to kick back and relax and actually receive some of the appreciation that the folks who are serving and their families deserve, because this is not easy on anybody, and sometimes, you know, folks limit their engagement on these issues to watching what's going on TV, and this is a case where we can actually put hands and feet into action here to demonstrate our support and our appreciation for their service.
Sure.
You know, and I think nothing means more to a service person than when somebody says thank you for your service. You know?
Yeah.
There's no question about that. I mean, I think it's very, very important, first of all, I'd like to thank you from the veterans' point of view on the effort that you have put forth, and you and your organization. You've utilized 3 words that the United States Marine Corps taught us, and that was adapt, improvise, and overcome. And so obviously you've done all 3, and you've done an excellent job of it. And I know that the veteran service organizations will be deeply appreciative of that. You know, and it's the statement that you just made is very, very true. Every serviceman enjoys being told thank you. But for years, the veterans have seen that thank you isn't enough, that we have to do more, and these are the kinds of things that show us that this contribution is going to benefit veterans down the road. The pat on the back, or the warm fuzzy, so to speak, or in this case, Senator, and I don't mean to be contrite on this, feel-good legislation does nothing for us. You can name 4 or 5 highways in the state after the veterans, and I think that's wonderful, but it does nothing to help with our primary problems. And you know, we don't. We're
going to provide some feel-good chairs.
Yes, that's fine.
That's
feel-good chairs or futons to sleep on.
Yeah, there's no legislation. I mean, I want to point out, there's no legislation required on this. It's not spending a taxpayer dime. This is a case where we're just going off and seeing a need. I mean, one of the reasons I got interested in this, frankly, is I did a lot of traveling before getting elected into office. I was a management consultant. I spent a lot of time in D.C. I'd go through Atlanta Airport and out in Texas, out in Dallas-Fort Worth. They always had strong USO presence, and we didn't have anything like that showing appreciation. We had a lot of service personnel coming through the airport, but all we had was a couple of banners going down in a baggage claim. We can do a heck of a lot more than banners.
You bet.
And from the outpouring of volunteer support on this, it's evident that people want to provide a lot more than banners.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And people have just been great. One of the volunteers is building. We think we're going to have a couple set of 3 bunk beds to use. You know, and
with a volunteer carpenter. I mean,
and just great. And I belong to AMVETS and American Legion and VFW and the Vietnam Veterans things. And the people, all the people that belong here in the auxiliaries, they do so much to you know, raise money, and we're throwing a holiday dinner, Thanksgiving dinner for about 50 of the vets at our hall. You know, I had the honor when I was on active reservist to run a Joint Information Bureau over in Plymouth, England, for the 50th anniversary of D-Day. And I wasn't born until 1947. If it hadn't been for these. What these men did back then, the whole world would have been changed. And then I had a great honor the following year. I ran media operations for Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet, and met some of the same veterans again. But we were out on the carrier Carl Vinson for a 2-hour parade of ships and a 1-hour air show in the hovering platform. So it takes us about 5 minutes to get by the Arizona Memorial, and we're on the flight deck uncovered, because you're always uncovered on the flight deck. And we got 2,000 veterans and their guests on board. And we attentioned, and he was saluted the Arizona. And I returned the salute, and I turned to my right, and here was a Pearl Harbor survivor with tears in his eyes. And he turns to me, and I met him the day before. We did a little ceremony at the Submarine Memorial. He goes, "Captain, you know, I've waited 50 years for this day. I put my arm around him. I could have signed up, and you know, I was just there for 17 days. You know?
Well, that's a good segue into something else I want to make sure veterans are aware of, especially for World War II veterans that are coming up. We've got an honor flight coming up on November 4th. But if people are interested in participating in those honor flights, please call my office, and we'll get them engaged. We've got, just since I announced the first one we're going to go for, we've got another gentleman to express interest as well in honor flight. And for those of you who don't know what an honor flight is, they'll take a World War II veteran, fly him out to Washington, D.C. with a lot of love and support the whole way through, letters just demonstrating their appreciation for their service. They'll fly out to D.C. and back. They'll be escorted the whole way, and they go visit the memorial.
The World War II Memorial,
Yes.
which was dedicated about
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
So
so
I was there for that.
fantastic opportunity. I want to highlight appreciation to Wayne County Airport Authority. I think this is going to be this Freedom Center is going to be a crown jewel for what is by all accounts a world-class gateway, and I look forward to making sure that we get get the airport into some positive press around this on a regular basis, showing everything that we're able to do for our veterans and their families. And I thank you very much both of you guys for your service, not just while in the service, but afterwards. It's a total blessing to know both of you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think it's a great program, and I intend to get with our public relations director in the American Legion and make sure that this gets in our publication,
Yes.
which goes out every couple months. Make sure that we tell people to make the donations, help us keep this going, and make it even better.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea. When you come back from foreign soil to American soil, this is something that would be great to see first when you step foot in the airport.
Yeah.
So
We also had the idea, because we're right there by 43, we're going to talk to Delta, and maybe we can take over that whole wall, to put the flag up.
Oh, that'd be
Nice.
great.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
this is good. It's celebrating everything that's good about America and our heritage, and which I think is embodied by the fact that we have a volunteer military, and they're going off there serving with their families. Just a blessing to live in this country, and I've traveled enough to really get an appreciation for it, and you guys are part of those emblems that make me proud to be an American. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.